And our statistics show us that the age 17 to 24, that we term digital natives, are more online than us. So congratulations. We wish you all the best. I have the honor of co-moderating this session today. And I am so thrilled on this occasion because it's a special day. I have a daughter, I have a wife, I have 3 sisters. I was born of a mother, so I respect gender very much. It touches my heart. And when I look at you, I see a very bright future, but also keep talking to the boys so that they too are not left behind. So Thelma, thank you very much. She has left. And welcome again everyone to this session. Since I took office as the director of the Telecommunication Development Bureau, the issue of gender and girls in ICT has always been at the center of everything that I've been doing. And I hope that we can grow this dream. I'm pleased that I'm here also with our Secretary General, who is the gender champion, Doreen Bogdan Martin. And she has always been fighting the battle to make sure that the world is balanced. And I may say that Africa, we are lagging behind. There are other regions that are doing better, but I know that very soon we'll be catching up. So, in March this year, I launched the Mainstreaming Gender in Digital Policy, providing guidance on how to put in place concrete actions and offering insights to help policymakers understand how to best influence policy making processes and advocate for gender equality. Digital policies that mainstream gender will create a conducive ecosystem to everyone's benefit. However, policies and just policies are not enough. For policies to be effective, we need to understand community needs and perspectives. Everyone is to be part of this process. Programs and projects such as Girls in ICTs can inspire girls and nurture them for a better future. We need to invest in girls to awaken their interest in STEM careers and to cultivate all this into a better future for the girls. Furthermore, we need men to create equal opportunities for girls and women and to grow and develop. In particular, we need to show them that they have their place in fields traditionally seen as male-dominated. We need to show them that it is time to break down gender stereotype and norms. ITU is the oldest United Nations organization established in 1865. Up until 2022, we managed to have the first Secretary General. So you too, you can make it. We have what we call the Network of Women Digital Ministers, which is a product of a joint collaboration between ITU and GIZ BMZ. And we thank our partner GIZ for standing with us and sharing the vision that we have. Our partnership crucially brings together high-ranking female and male political leaders, as we have here today, for digital affairs to allow practical insights and recommendations for the way forward. We will look to policy development, implementation, as well as collaborative, complementary, and continued engagement between the network and Smart Africa. We will soon be talking about smart girls, because that's who you are. And ladies and gentlemen, with this in mind and without further ado, let me introduce our Secretary General, Doreen Bogdan Martin, ITU Secretary General, if you can join me to welcome her to take the floor for her opening remarks.
Thank you, Director Zavazava. Good morning, bonjour, bon dia. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, girls, good morning. It's terrific to see so many young women here with us today for this important celebration. I want to maybe start by thanking the CEO of Smart Africa, Lesina. He and I were together, I think it was in London, a few months ago, and we were talking about this session of Transform. And when he mentioned the dates, the two of us thought, oh my goodness, it's Girls in ICT Day. And knowing how important the issue of girls is to Smart Africa and the incredible work they do around Geek Girls, we thought that it would be wonderful to bring the global celebration here to Victoria Falls during Transform. So thank you so much, Lesina, for ensuring that we could bring this event to fore today. I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're all here because we know that change needs to be visible, and that having more women leaders in tech and digital policy and also governance will enable better decision-making, and it will help to drive change across the digital sector. Of course, it's not just about having women at the table. That's nice, but we need women to actively participate in key decisions and policy-making processes. It's also about women making the way for future women leaders. This is something that we're often criticized as not doing enough of. And of course that means if you're a woman, you've made it to the top, you've climbed that ladder, the struggle was probably difficult. Make sure you leave that ladder for the next generation of women leaders to come, and make sure you enable and help young women to actually climb that ladder. This year marks, I stress marks, I'm not going to say celebrate, but this year marks 25 years since the ITU passed its first resolution linked to gender. That was back in 1998 at the World Telecommunications Development Conference at the time, and the resolution that was adopted recognized the importance of full participation by women in policy and decision-making. Well, guess what? 25 years later, that we didn't make enough progress, of course, and that almost exact wording found its place in the recent outcome of the Commission on the Status of Women that concluded just some weeks ago in New York. And so why is it that 25 years later, we have to use the same language that we brought forward 25 years ago? What's wrong? That's what I would ask you, why? It's because we haven't made enough progress. We still have a digital gender gap when it comes to access to digital technologies and services. We still have a skills gap, and of course that's the theme for this year's Girls in ICT Day. And of course, we have a leadership gap. We have a gap that runs through all different levels in the sector, and of course, it's most evident when it comes to leadership. And that's why in discussions with Her Excellency Minister Schulze, we thought that a network of women digital ministers could actually help us to tackle this lack of progress. And so we launched last month, on the margins of the Commission of the Status of Women, this network of women ministers. Our goal is to try to bring better balance and, of course, inclusion in our sector where women are completely underrepresented in the digital decision-making processes. If we look globally at the number of women ICT ministers, anybody want to guess what's the percentage? Raise your hand if you think it's about 50%. 40%? 30%? Okay, 30%, I'm seeing some hands. 20%? A few more hands. Okay, it's actually 16%. It's incredible, only 16% of our ICT ministers, in some cases they're called the digital ministers or ministers of innovation, only 16% are actually led by women. Why? Again, I keep asking myself, why? Is it because of bias? Is it because of perception? Is our field too technical? Is it because our field is not perceived as having a people focus? Well, I'd like to hear your thoughts today. Because by getting more women to the top will help us to create what we'd like to see, which is a sort of virtuous circle, where the examples set and the gender transformative digital policies launched by female leaders will help to impact and help to inspire the next generation. So, ladies and gentlemen, today's Roundtable series gives us an incredible opportunity to share experiences, insights on policies, and the challenges to create this virtuous circle. And we welcome your thoughts on how we can shape the future role of this network for women ministers right here in this African continent. We do hope that this can be a powerful tool for change, the changes that we want, the changes that Africa wants. And I'm so happy to see so many friends of women in the group, so many supporters in this room, and so many of our partners since way back when. And I do want to recognize in particular GIZ, because they joined us in the early days of our Equals partnership, and I thank you for believing in this cause and for staying with us. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you can count on me. As the first ITU Secretary General, I will do my utmost to ensure that we advance on this cause. I really don't want to be a tick box where we say ITU has a woman SecGen, so we're done. So let's not talk about tick boxing, because we have a lot more to do. You can count on me, you can count on our BDT director, Dr. Zavazava, and we really look forward to working with you so that in 25 years, we're not talking about the same thing. And I hope in 2 years, we can come back and say we have made significant progress. So thank you again, and happy Girls in ICT Day. Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for applauding our Secretary General. At this point, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the government of Zimbabwe, to the Minister of ICT, Dr. Jenfen Muswera, for making this possible, the Minister of Education, and Dr. Machengete, Director General of POTRAS. The young girls that you see over there are here thanks because of the effort of government to make sure that they are here. They are sponsored by POTRAS, and we congratulate you. So you know it is a school holiday time in Zimbabwe right now. So all these girls took their time. They are supposed to be doing homework, but they are here to celebrate with us. So we are very much grateful for you taking the time. This would not have been possible without the ingenious work of a great dynamic visionary Director General of Smart Africa, my brother, Lasina Kone, who has tirelessly been working for the continent and making sure that no one will be left behind. I would like to invite him to share his wisdom with us at this moment. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zavazava. Your Excellency, Ministers, Excellency Edward Colon, UN Residence and Humanitarian Coordinator here, Your Excellency, my sister, Dr. Amani Abu Zaid, Commissioner of Infrastructure and Energy, Excellency Secretary General, my sister, Doreen Bogdan, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Minister Ursula, my sister, Minister of Communication Digitalizations of Ghana. For your information, at Smart Africa, the majority of our ICT ministers are women. And I call them my angel garden. So, Mr. Diaby Mustafa, I believe he's in the room here. Esteemed partners from the ITU, from our partners as well in Germany, Estonia, if you're here, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I would like to welcome you all to the Transform Africa Summit 2023 and extend a special welcome to this ministerial roundtable sessions on the network of women digital ministers as part of the celebration of the ITU's 2023 Girls in ICT Day. Exactly as my sister Doreen said, we were together, I believe it was in January or February, and we decided let's do this. Smart Africa, and indeed all of us present here and across the world, join the ITU in celebrating girls and ICT, who are already today's innovators, entrepreneurs, digital transformation agents, and leaders. I refer to them as today's leader because they become so the minute they decide to. And our role is to enable and facilitate that vision. This year's theme is Digital Skills for Life, and goes to show digital technologies continue to shape and weave into our everyday life. This unfortunately means that those without digital skills will not be able to participate fully in everyday life activity. This is not a scenario we can ever be comfortable with. Hence, the need to support young people, and particularly girls and young women, with the skills and resources required to thrive in the digital economy. At Smart Africa, we have established a digital skills vehicle called the Smart Africa Digital Academy, SADA, through which we have trained more than 3,500 decisions and policymakers to date. SADA training gives the relevant technical, policy, and leadership skills through the Smart Women and Girls and ICT initiative. We empower and promote women and girls to participate in various leadership stratas. Did you know that the leading countries in the world of women legislators is in Africa? Rwanda has 61% female representative in parliament, which meets and surpassed the target set in the Beijing Declaration and Plan of Action. I am glad that today we have some of the notable African women in leadership right here in this room, more so women in digital leadership. These are eminent women and men who have made the digital gender equality their life mission, not only because it makes economic sense, no, but it's because it's the right thing to do. Research shows that companies with inclusive environments multiply their innovative capacity by 6 times. By having access to high-speed internet, girls can have 14% more chances to have a job. But a device costs around 62.8% of salaries, according to statistics, and the gig of data around 8% of income, according to certain statistics. Gender inequality in all its forms is expensive. We cannot afford 2.5 trillion. It's too high a price to pay for something we can fix if we are willing to fix it. I join our distinguished guests and partners to strive for a level playing field for the girls we are celebrating today. To do this, we need to do the following: inclusive and participative policies and environment that address the gender digital divide and foster opportunities for growth for all women and girls in the digital space. 2, establishing infrastructure for affordable and meaningful connectivity and access. 3, putting our money where our mouth is, making the right investments that oil and translate our ideas into tangible and impactful actions. Number 4, being pragmatic, making deliberate effort to support girls and women empowerment and promotion in the digital space. 6, this gathering here is a perfect example where we see powerful women in one place. Powerful women in one place, sharing insight with their peers and joining hands to bring inclusive digital transformation on our continent. Again, Smart Africa join hands to inspire, encourage, empower women and girls in the digital leadership. I make an emphatic call to you, ladies and gentlemen, to join us too in the effort towards the gender digital equality. I wish a network of women and digital leaders all the success, and be assured that you have all our support at Smart Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucina. We look forward to continued cooperation with Smart Africa. Last but not least, it is my pleasure to introduce a video from Minister Schultz. You know, we can't do it alone. We need partners, we need political will, and we need people who dream with us and who share the vision with us. So I would like to introduce this video by Minister Schultz, who could not be here with us. If you could please show the video.
Ministers, digital experts. Around the world, women spend less time online than men. And as a result, they are in danger of missing out on information, missing out on digital skills, missing out on jobs in the digital sector, and above all, missing out on the future. The world is becoming more and more digitally connected, but there are currently 1.3 billion women who remain excluded from this connection. And it's not just about internet use. Women's perspectives are missing in digital policy too. Decisions about our digital future are mostly made by men. Only 18% of the world's digital affairs ministers are women. We are fortunate to have some of you here today. The reasons for women's digital exclusion are multiple and complex. Traditional gender roles, limited access to technology and the internet, online harassment, and a lack of female role models are just some of the contributing factors. Why is this gender-digital divide a problem? Because it isolates women at a communication level, because it denies them access to knowledge and education, and because it increases existing social disparities where equal access in digital technology could help to reduce them. I have made gender equality a policy goal, and as a logical consequence of that, I am committed to overcoming the gender-digital divide. Women need to have the same opportunities as men to shape digital technologies. Today, we are celebrating Girls in ICT Day. It shows what I mean when I talk about shaping digital technologies. I mean more access to the internet and digital skills, more women in digital professions, and above all, more women as leaders in digital policy. To achieve this, ITU Secretary General Doreen Bogdan-Martin and I founded the Network of Women Digital Ministers. The network helps to strengthen the representation, inclusion, and leadership of women in international digital policy. But I also want to bring about real change on a local level together with our partner countries. This is why the German Development Ministry has been supporting the Smart Africa Digital Academy for the past 2 years. So far, the Academy has provided training for over 6,500 decision makers to show them how they can create ICT regulations that are gender sensitive and environmentally sound. The aim of the training is to develop fair digital policies that take all people into account. I hope you enjoy a fruitful dialogue and exchange of ideas at the Transform African Summit. The only way we can bridge the gender-digital divide and make sure that no one anywhere in the world misses out on the future is by working together, because the future is not just digital, it's female too.
So I take this opportunity to thank the Honorable Minister Schulz. We truly value our work together. And now I would like to pass the floor to my co-moderator, Thelma.
Thank you very much. And before we continue, I would like for us to capture the day. Today is a very big day. If we don't capture it, nobody will know it happened. So I'd like to call on Your Excellency, Mrs. Bogdan-Martin, Your Excellency, Dr. Amani, my boss and CEO, Mr. Lassina Koni, and all the honorable ministers here to please come forward for a photo session. All the ministers, please. Where should they stand? No, just a minute before you sit. Would like to take with the girls as well. So a few of the girls, please.
The Minister of Zimbabwe, was she intervening? She was not? Why did she come? Who's this girl? Minister of Transport.
Please, would like to have a few of the girls, and then with the partners, GIZ, GSMA, all our partners, please come forward for another picture. Our partners, please join. Yeah, I mentioned GSMA. Angela, GIZ, representatives from BMZ, a few of the girls. Please coordinate, yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. A round of applause for them. Yes. Yes. Because I'm going to call. I'll call them now. So as we settle down, we'll quickly move on to the next session of our panel. We're running behind time, so we'd like to quickly complete. As Ms. Doreen had said, change is visible. And today with us, we have very distinguished women ministers to discuss a few of the topics. It's my pleasure to welcome Her Excellency Dr. Mani, Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy of the African Union, as our first panelist. Ms. Paula Ingabire, Minister of Information and Communication Technology and Innovation, Rwanda. Thank you, Madam Minister. His Excellency Edward Kalon, the UN Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator for Zimbabwe. Your Excellency, you're welcome on stage. And then His Excellency Felix Mutati, Minister of Science and Technology, Zambia. Please have a seat. So I would like to also call Her Excellency Mrs. Ursula Owusu-Ekufu, the Minister of Communications and Digitalization from Ghana. Madam Cecilia Miamutua, Director, Legal Services, Postal and Telecommunication Regulatory Authority, Zimbabwe. And then we have Dr. Rejoice Maseko, the Director of Research, Science and Technology and Innovation, Kingdom of Eswatini. Dr. Rejoice Maseko. Okay. And then finally we have Mr. Diaby Mustafa Mami, the Senior Advisor, ICT and Digital Transformation, Cabinet of the Vice President, Africa Union Commission. So we'll quickly dive in. Thank you for coming, and a very good morning to you. As has been said, change is visible, and we are very glad that you are here with us. The network of digital women ministers is supposed to help us create that visibility, but also create proper regulatory environment to be able to support the growth of girls in ICT. Welcome. Our first dialogue is going to focus on policy development and the elements that are needed to ensure women's empowerment in the ICT sector and digital policy. To start with, Her Excellency Dr. Mani, I'd like to ask from you how we can invest in...
I'd like to remind everyone that in our rural areas, for 90% of our rural areas, women and girls spend about 5 hours a day to get firewood and water to be able to cook and to have meals in the family, which means that those women and girls de facto are excluded from any other possibility of education or any other knowledge or economic activity that is conducive for them to go further. So I really am emphasizing the importance of making sure that our connectivity programs, high-speed internet, is spread across our rural areas, develop skills, but also to ensure that clean cooking is considered a top priority and a high energy issue to be dealt with soon, because without that we will continue seeing women and girls being excluded from everything that could be positive to their lives. So with that, I'm very optimistic, seeing how now I'm surrounded by all these power women, and that's what we want. We don't want just women empowerment. We also want to make sure that women are in power. And I am honored to be at the African Union, which is the only international organization in the world which by law has instituted that we are 50-50 women and men elected officials. And I thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you. In fact, our panel is very gender imbalanced because we have too many women and only one man, which is a good sign. Thank you. Deliberate. So I'll move on to Honorable Paula Ingabere. So Rwanda has the highest proportion of women leaders, and would like to understand how Rwanda has done this and how we can learn the steps that Rwanda took through so that we will be able to dismantle the existing norms that prevent girls from doing what Rwanda has been able to achieve.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Telman. Perhaps I'll also start by commending ITU and Doreen and the team for championing this Girls in ICT initiative. I think what we're seeing across different countries is that, you know, everyone has woken up, everyone is understanding the need to empower and be very deliberate about including young girls at a very young age. And so it's such a commendable initiative. So happy Girls in ICT Day, and you have all of us as champions on how we can make a difference in even very small ways. But coming back to your question, Telma, I think, and I think the DG of Smart Africa, Lasinda, did mention it in his speech, where he mentioned that Rwanda has the highest women representation, especially in government. For cabinet, we have more than 50%. When it comes to parliament, we have over 61% of women in those positions. But also what we're starting to see is in the private sector, equally an effort to put women in decision-making roles. I'll quote particularly a statistic around the financial sector where 10 years ago, you probably would not find a single woman CEO in the financial sector. And today, I think over 60% women are leading the banks in Rwanda. And I think as the ICT sector, because we're particularly talking about technology, there's more work to be done, whether it's in the number of women entrepreneurs, startups that are led and owned by women. And so we want to also to be able to see that level of progress also happening in the tech industry that is heavily male-dominated, not just in Rwanda, but also across the world. And you ask, what have we done differently? I think one is being very deliberate about putting women at the table and making sure that, you know, their voices are heard, making sure that they are part and parcel of forming these policies, of leading, you know, the progress that we're seeing in the country. Our constitution provides for at least 30% women representation, but from the statistics I just shared, you know, we've really even gone beyond the 30%, but a minimum is 30% in any positions of leadership. But I think Dr. Amani said it right, it's not just cutting numbers, it's also what value are women bringing at the table, because it's not enough to have 50% of women or 60% or 30%, it's what difference are they making? How are we making sure that the challenges that are unique to women and girls are being taken care of in how we design policies and programs across? And so to do that, you also have to make sure that we're being very deliberate about how we nurture leaders and girls very early on so that they can take on these responsibilities when the opportunity does you know, get presented. And I'll very specifically talk about key things that we're doing to really go at the source of grooming young girls so that when they are taking up these responsibilities, they're very well equipped to do that. And it starts even with the education system. In Rwanda, we've already put in place what we've called, it's a specialized school model, it's called the Rwanda Coding Academy, and it gets 15 to 17-year-olds, their last 3 years of secondary school is a structured and dedicated program on coding, but because we know there's always been a lack of girls that are coding, that are in these fields, we have been deliberate about making sure when we recruit and enroll them, we have a 50% split of girls and boys. And so what that means is that as they get into the workforce, we've given everyone early on an opportunity to be trained, to be given the right skills that are going to allow them to thrive within the workforce. The second thing, and this really comes back to the Girls in ICT initiative, where we've designed mentorship programs. I think many of the young girls that are here in the room, they feel very proud to find mentors, people they can look up to, where they feel like, I look up to you as a mentor, I like what you've done, I like the story, what you've gone through to get where you are, and I think it's also possible for me. And so being able to share these stories more often so that many of the young girls across the continent can relate with particular stories, can relate with particular journeys that each and every one of us has gone through, but also can know that if I'm here as a minister, they can also be a minister. 10 years ago, I didn't know I would be a minister, so anyone can be. And so it's really just being able to equip them and mentor them and support them in that process. Amani, you mentioned something very important, which is really how we use data to disaggregate, because when you go back and figure out your population, understanding the demographics, then you know in terms of designing policies and initiatives, you can be better targeted. But it's more than just being able to target, it's also being able to track and make sure that the people you're targeting, you're actually reaching them and impact is being created. I want to end on 3 things that I'll be very quick because we have a long lineup of panelists here today. It's the incentives you put in place. I think when people are getting out of school looking for internships and fellowships, it's putting in place the right incentives so that people are hiring more and more girls as well and giving them equal opportunities that boys are given as they get into the workforce, as they get scholarships, as they get internships. And also creating these awareness campaigns where these stories can be shared. And so for me, it's a multi-pronged effort. It's the policies, it's being deliberate about the programs, it's really tackling it at the source and making sure more girls are being empowered and giving them opportunities. It's really ensuring that we're using data to track how the impact of the initiatives we're putting in place is happening at the grassroots level. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable. So I'll move on to Honorable Owusu Ekofu, the Minister of Communications and Digitalization of Ghana. Having heard what Rwanda has done, I'd like to understand.
Speak up.
So I'll move on to
Yes.
I'll move on to Mrs. Ursula Owusu Ekofu. Having heard what Rwanda has done, being intentional about their efforts, how can the network of women digital ministers help to achieve these concrete results, seeing that Rwanda is more of an outlier in this space?
Thank you very much, Thelma, and I'm delighted to be here and would also add my voice to commend Doreen and the ITU and Smart Africa Alliance for making this happen. Even the celebration of Girls in ICT Day, which is an initiative of the ITU, embraced by all its member states, is a testament to the fact that we need to include women in everything that we do. We learn a lot from each other's experiences, and we're inspired by the successes that are being chalked by countries such as Rwanda in the area of women's empowerment. But as Amani also said, it's important not just to have empowerment, but to have women in power. Because if you have a seat at the decision-making table, then you can implement the decisions that will ensure that you create even more opportunities for young women and girls in this traditionally male-dominated field. We inherited a Girls in ICT program, which was a one-day event in Ghana. We would assemble young girls like this, talk to them about the importance of digital inclusion, share a few experiences with them, and that was it. But since becoming the minister in charge of the sector, I decided that just a one-day event was not enough. We needed to immerse the girls in ICT training, give them practical digital skills, give them the opportunity to interact with female role models in the sector, and enable them to see that it was possible to have careers, well-paying jobs, and a lifetime experience in this sector. And so we expanded our Girls in ICT Day celebration to be a 3-week-long program in which we would train trainers, teachers. Now we've finished, we're currently in the process of implementing ours. So we finished the training of 100 trainers, teachers in their schools who are empowered and equipped to train 1,000 girls in their catchment area, the remotest parts of the country. And those 1,000 girls would go through a competition, and the best 100 of them would be given devices, laptops of their own. Their teachers would also be given laptops. They would be provided with computer laboratories so that they can continue the training after they can continue studying after that event. And we have a mentorship day where we bring women in ICT to spend a day with these girls, share their experiences with them, expose them to the challenges in the sector. And there are challenges. It is not all rosy. In 2017, at the WTDC, I was happy to announce that of the 4 telecoms companies in Ghana, 3 of the CEOs were women, and there was only 1 male in the room when they met, which was a far cry from when I was in the sector about 20 years ago then. Today, the tables have turned. There is just 1 female ICT telecoms CEO in Ghana. So you would have good days, good times, and bad times, and you roll with the flow, but you don't let that discourage you. It's important to create a pipeline so that after the women, the girls get the training, they are assured of jobs and careers. And so we've created, in partnership with the Telecommunications Chamber, the Seats for Ladies in STEM initiative, whereby we create opportunities in the ICT firms with the private sector, so that those who have received training would be given the opportunities to be engaged as interns and have full-time jobs as well in those firms. There's also an international conference that we have instituted called the Femitech Conference, where we encourage women in technology to also come together and share their experiences. Women and technology were made for each other, and we seem to have forgotten the lessons that we learned from the pandemic, where it was possible to work remotely. Thankfully, some companies have institutionalized virtual working days in the week, but it was possible for women who multitask to take care of the home and work and deliver on their schedules at the same time. So it's important to expose as many girls as possible to the digital skills that they need, and that's why the theme for this year's celebration is so critical. And let them know that it is not just a one-day event or a fad, a passing fancy, but it is a life-changing experience that they are being given, which can transform their lives, enable them to interact digitally, work in a field which is traditionally male-dominated, take care of their families at the same time, and have well-paying jobs, and hold their own wherever they find themselves. We have too few women in leadership in technology, but through these young girls that we're exposing to this exciting field, the story will be very different 10 years from now. And that's what gives us hope, that we're creating the opportunity to change the narrative and change the dynamics of the world that we have today, so that we will not just be talking 25 years from now about gender digital inclusion, but we'll be living witnesses of the transformative power of technology. And so, Doreen, 25 years from now, I can guarantee you that the story will be very different because of these young girls who we believe will embrace technology and live it and make it their own and own it and use that to transform our world. And we'll have many more women in power leading the charge, because the seeds would have been sown and the seeds are being planted today, which all of us are encouraged to water and to see flourish. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. And it's important also to note that in this journey, we are with our male colleagues. It's not a competition. We really need the male support to be able to make strides in this journey. And so I would come to Mr. Edward Kalon to ask what can and what should be done by our male allies and policymakers to support what has been just explained.
It's okay, you can start speaking.
It's on. It's
working.
Yeah.
It's working?
Yes.
It's working? Okay, testing. First, let me say good morning to everybody here. I will just stand on existing protocols that have been established so far, but let me say happy International ICT Women's Day. That's the way I like calling it. And I want to also re-echo one reality, and that is science, technology, and digital. It's not going to mean anything without women, and the women are the future. And I want to say this from my own personal perspective, where I come from a household of women. And I always like telling my friends, it's nice to eat last, and it's nice to get your kids to ask you, Daddy, take care of those plates too. What that means, it remodels you as a person that is accommodative in life, and they help shape your appreciation of what life is in general. So to me, it's not only science, technology we're talking about women as a feature. I think that is the premise. And in policy making efforts, we always miss the preamble by juggling around words like, how can we? And I'm always calling the attention of my colleagues, how can we ensure? So we have moved from that perspective of trying to guess what we need to do, but what we need to do. And I think those are very important elements. The colleagues here have already talked about best practices that are done in other parts of the world as we speak. And we all know that the future is bright for digital efforts ongoing. I think what I will spend my time on is to just talk a little bit on the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and African Union 2063. For the Sustainable Development, the 17 goals, which most people here are familiar with, have more or less embodied a roadmap for progress that is sustainable and leaves no one behind. And I have 3 or 4 critical points I want to put on the table in terms of policy articulation moving forward. 1, it is important to ensure the right of girls and young women to quality education. I think that is the beginning of the discussion. While education, to most of us here, is a human right, it's also an indispensable means by which girls and young women can realize all the other rights enshrined in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So let's look at women's engagement from a human rights perspective. Let us don't even start second-guessing it. When you have over or closely 50% of the population that are women, and you talk about socio-economic development without really embracing the needs to put them in the middle of your policy discourse. Second, there is need for an urgent action to be taken to implement national policies and enforce laws to protect girls, especially their rights, including through the provision of comprehensive sexuality education, quality reproductive health services, and mentorships and support that is so critical to bridge these policy differences. The third is an issue of improving coverage and quality of health, water and sanitation services for those who lack them, and how to reduce the burden of water-related disease and to improve quality of life. I think one of the panelists have already touched on the burden on women. Providing water and sanitation confers multiple benefits beyond reducing waterborne disease, including alleviating the time and economic burden of having to collect water, thereby also ensuring that women and girls who often bear the burden of walking long distances to fetch water, which interferes with their studies, in most of the rural communities especially. Increasing access to computers and other gadgets, connectivity and electrification that ensure uninterrupted power supply. Without appropriate technology, I think it's clear for us here that meaningful connectivity and the power and supply that goes with it, it will be very difficult for girls to catch up on ICT and STEM. And last but not the least, when we start looking at what we need to do and how can we share some of our collective voices to actually promote the position of women in policy articulation. I mean, one is how can we have men and boys on board as champions? It's so important. At times we think affirmative action alone is going to resolve the problem, but I think affirmative action with the support of men is so important to realize the type of objectives that we want. Second is calling for equal access to education, skills, and development. I've already touched on that. And working towards drawing women into economic mainstreams. You cannot leave women in the fringes and expect them to be active players in policy articulation. They have to be on the table. And the only way they can be on the table is to ensure that you equip them, give them the requisite backgrounds that are required for them to contribute effectively. So to me, the issue here is that inasmuch as science, technology, and digital is important for today, but please, let's leave this place with one thing, that women are also the future, and we cannot leave close to 50% of the population out and really talk about socio-economic development. I think socio-economic development starts with articulating policies that integrate women in the total discourse of development and also empowers them and gives them the opportunity to be productive members of society. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And with that, allow me to come back to you, Cecilia. I want to find out what's your perspective on the network of women digital ministers and how it can help us to achieve some of the concrete results that we've been talking about.
Thank you very much. I come from the background of the network of women in ITUD, and we work in the development sector on this. So for me, the key word is collaboration, collaboration, and collaboration. The first point that I have is that the digital ministers need to collaborate with the health ministers and those responsible for social development in order to make sure that the cultural norm of having girls being given toys to work with that are dolls, pots and pans, so that all they learn is about babies and cooking. What they need to do is, if they collaborate with the ministers of health and those responsible for social development, these are the people that come into contact with women at the antenatal stage and can actually talk to them and make sure that when they have the girl child, they treat them the same way as the boy child. They make sure when they get toys, these girls also get technical toys that they can assemble, disassemble, so that they get that technical thinking right from a small age or from an early age. Because we all know that it's not easy to teach an old dog new tricks. So the best thing is to catch them young. And those ministers, those counterparts ministers are very important in that scenario. The second set of ministers that they need to collaborate with in order to achieve results is to collaborate with the ministers of education. Today we are here and we have all these girls here, courtesy of the ministers of education, the ministers that actually help shape the educational policies. So our digital ministers, if they collaborate with the ministers of education, they can also influence and help shape the policies that affect these girls from a young age when they start school, and to make sure that the digital knowledge is also then part of the education system. The third set of ministers that the digital ministers need to collaborate with are the ministers of justice. Because after all has been said and done, and all the talking is done, all the policies are made, these are the ministers whose teams translate those policies into law. And it helps if there's collaboration, because what will happen is that the real issues that you want to go into the law will go into the law and help shape what then happens at a higher level. And when I look at this, this is what will make it possible to groom the young girls into the future leaders, ICT leaders that we need. For them to become digital ministers, they have to start being prepared for the role from a young age. A great number of our mentors in ITUD, Network of Women, are lawyers, professors, marketers, and there's need to incorporate some of these women just to let the girl child know that if they cannot make it into the strictly technical subjects, whatever profession they take, if they choose to join the ICT sectors, they can still come and make a difference. And I also think that what I have said about making sure that girls are not restricted to playing with dolls and to have toys that are pots and pans really works. It works because I have experienced it. I have implemented it on my daughter, and I'm happy today to say she's in second year studying computer science and mathematics. Nice. So I really think these things can work. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia. And it's so true what you just said. If you Google toys for boys right now, you'd see all the puzzles, all the tech stuff. And then if you Google toys for girls, it's Barbie and makeup sets. Yeah. So there's a need for us to change all those things. I'd like to go to Dr. Rejoice Maseko. With all these things that have been said, and yesterday we heard from our heads of state of the need to integrate, how can we work together to shape a common vision?
Thank you so much, facilitator, for such a pertinent question. Maybe, firstly, let me start by making a disclaimer. I'm here representing Her Royal Highness, who is the Minister of ICT. I must say that it's a difficult one because she's very passionate about this topic. I know if she was here, she would have done even much, much more better than I'm going to do. But in any case, I just want to make it clear that for a long time, she has been a leader, a cultural leader of young girls in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and she has played that role and played it very well. Then even now she believes young girls or girls, they have something, they have a lot to offer when it comes to the ICT sector. She believes the journey will be incomplete without the involvement of girls. We are saying as Africans, we want to transform to the digital economy, but the question is it possible if we leave behind over 50% of our population? The answer, obviously, is no. Having said that, I would like to congratulate our ministers. Oh, what a network. Why am I saying it's key, this network is key in ensuring that girls, they participate in transforming, in digital transformation? It's because the STEM pipe has been leaking for a very long time. You can Google, since time immemorial, it has been leaking. And when you check, is it leaking only here, maybe in Zimbabwe? Is it only leaking maybe in Ghana? The answer is no, all over the world, all over Africa. And research, according to research, as it is, only 2%, roughly 2% of the girls are making it to PhD. Yes, speakers have already highlighted that even less than 5% are making it to leadership positions, especially if it's ICT related. You only find 1 or 2 girls. So, and not only that, also, when it comes, especially decision makers, they are not even there. Only a few percentage. It's amazing that here it's only one male. When you check, the narrative could be there are more girls in the ICT sector. The answer is no. So, what do we do? The problem statement was crafted long time ago. Issue is one. There is no political buy-in. There is just no political buy-in in many countries. So, and number 2, if that is the case, if there's no political buy-in, how about the policies? Are they going to be inclusive in nature? The answer is no. So we can agree that to date, the pipe is leaking because it is very difficult to implement policies, even if maybe they are inclusive, if there is no political buy-in. So we appreciate the fact that the region has realized that, thus the network of ministers. As one person who's also in academia, it's clear that when you check, there are no mentors. There are no mentors when it comes to the young girls. They can attest to that. You find that the only person who is around them to encourage, to mentor them all the way, to tell them that, no, it is possible. This journey is possible. You can be a leader in ICT. You can participate in the digital transformation. It is men are doing that, but only few women are available. So again, I would say we appreciate this network because we see it as a game changer. Then the question is, as I move on to answering the question, as to is how can we achieve this in unity? We are saying it's possible. We have heard yesterday that we can only transform our economies using the emerging technologies only if we are unified. I repeat, only if we collaborate. So it is for that reason that this morning I'm going to repeat that we appreciate the fact that the African Union and other regional organizations are saying, let us unify so that we can transform to the digital economy. We appreciate the SADC because had it not been for these regional organizations, had it not been for the international organizations like UNESCO, we wouldn't have achieved what I'm about to share in the Kingdom of Eswatini. That is why I'm saying, as the kingdom, we believe in unity. As it is, we have just concluded a constitution which is going to enable us to establish a coordinating body, which we call a YZ. So it's the national chapter. YZ meaning Women in Engineering, Science and Technology. It's going to be a coordinating body. It's supported by the SADC region, is supported by the African Union, is supported by UNESCO. So that's why we've concluded that. And we are saying, yes, we have seen the efforts of the kingdom whereby you have different organizations, including the women in science and engineering. But we are saying in silos and without the buy-in from government, it is going to be impossible to ensure that we encourage girls effectively in science, technology, and engineering. It is for that reason that as a country, we have prioritized the establishment of the national chapter, which is going to look at the issues of women in science and technology. Thus, we are here to share with the continent that it is possible, and we have seen fruits. We have ESICOM here, our regulator in the ICT sector. They are really playing a critical role in ensuring that girls participate in ICT. As it is now, just early this year, they have provided girls with scholarship to advance their digital skills to ensure that they partake in the transformation of the economy. So that's, we really appreciate that. So that says to us again, the private sector must be involved. Yes. Without the private sector, the journey will be difficult. So again, we invite the private sector, please walk the journey with us. Again, I'm going to share that even our universities in the Kingdom of Eswatini, they've prioritized issues around girls in ICT. Such that annually we have an event, the ICT Fair, which is normally hosted by our university and also the Royal, in collaboration with the Royal Science Technology Park.
Yes.
So thus, as a kingdom, we are saying we have seen collaboration, we have seen unity yielding fruits. Hence, we are proud to advise the continent that indeed, as if we are collaborating, we can push the digital economy agenda.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for those strong words. And as today is the International Girl in ICT Day, I'd like to give the opportunity to one girl. You have very distinguished women here. You have a lot of ministers here. I'd like to give the opportunity to one girl to ask a question. Anyone? Anyone has a question or comment or suggestion of how we can better support you? For the girls. Anyone?
There's one there.
Yes, please. You tell us your name, your school, and then you go to the question. Would like to round up very quickly, so very, very quickly.
Okay, thank you. My name is Honorable Enelet Mumba. I'm the Junior Member of Parliament for Wange Central and also the Minister of Primary and Secondary Education.
Wow.
Okay, so we spoke of gender digital inclusion. We talk of inclusion, however, we need youth to be included, a part of this inclusion. We need to catch them young, hence eradicating a mentality or mantra that says that women cannot do it. We talk of youth advisors or youth ambassadors in climate change or National AIDS Council, like Young People's Network, but we don't have any youth advisors or anything that pertains to youth in ICT. Hence, I see a need for there to be youth inclusion in ICT. We need the voice of young women for empowerment. Because anything for us without us is not for us, but anything for us with us is for us. As we leave no one and no place behind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable. A round of applause for her. Okay, so I'd like to give another chance, if just in case there's somebody else who wants to speak from the students. One last at the back. Very, very briefly. Very briefly. Please, you have all the time. You have been given all the time to speak. Thank you, Honorable.
Hello, I'm Londubuhle Moyo from Mosi Oyatunya High School. What I wanted to say is, at our schools, right now, I think there's a gap in resources for teaching ICT. Because right now, our class, we have more people in our class than we have machines and even access to the internet. I think that's a gap that needs to be filled in our schools.
Thank you. That's very well noted. And The ITU, as well as Smart Africa and partners, are working very hard to make sure we have that connectivity. There's a project called GIGA that is targeted at connecting all schools around the world. And I'm sure very soon it will come to a school, your school that you just mentioned. Thank you. And with that, please give the two a round of applause. Thank you. Okay, yes. So I'm going to give my panelists 1 minute each, please, to round up with your last words, starting from Your Excellency, Dr. Amani. A few words to close, please.
More girls in tech, more girls in STEM, more women in power, and the call is for all of us, not just the policymakers, but also the private sector, media, civil society, all of us. It is all of us to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mani. Honorable Paula.
Thank you very much. I think similar to hers, for me, it's for the young girls in the room to know that it starts with yourself. You can have all the support that we've talked about here on the panel and more than what we've even discussed, but if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't take that first step, then it's going to be difficult. I think very recently someone said you have to be at the table, and if you're not at the table, pull your own chair and be at the table. So it starts with you. And then finally, I think tomorrow we'll have the final competitions for the Miss Geek. I hope everyone can be there. It's, it's part of the Girls in ICT. It's a competition that has brought together girls from across the different member states of Smart Africa to pitch and also create ideas that's, solving problems. So I hope we can all be there to support them and be empowered as well to be the next, competitors in the following years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable. And I'll go to Honorable Ursula.
Just like Paula said, to the girls, there is nothing you cannot do if you put your mind to it. So the only thing that can limit you is yourself. And to the rest of us, we need to establish mentorship programs so that they can see themselves in us and see that it is possible. We need more training and skill building programs for them. Encourage gender diversity in hiring and promotion to create more opportunities for them up the ladder, and establish networks and support groups even at their level. And for younger women who are already in ICT jobs too, they need to be encouraged themselves. And then we all need to advocate for more gender responsive policies, and together we can make our world a better place and leave no one behind.
Thank you, Honorable.
Including the youth.
Yes, thank you, Honorable. And I'll give you the next to Mr. Edward Callon. Closing remarks.
Yeah, I think all has been said here today. I paraphrase 3 critical points that we have to live with. One is partnerships. This cannot be done alone by governments. So it's so critical that the private sector and all other philanthropic outlets out there that have vested interest in digitization to come on board to support efforts of government. The second element is gender-sensitive budgeting. How are national governments ensuring that budgets are gender-sensitive and appropriate allocations are made to empower girls and women moving forward? And last but not the least is that for women to succeed, the support of men are critical. And for men to succeed, the support of women are also critical. We are in a tight ecosystem where we need to watch each other's back to see a world we want to live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Madam Cecilia, your last words.
I have 3 messages. The first one is to the ministers to say, if possible, can we create an intergenerational team of representatives from primary, high school level, and tertiary education level, who can then meet maybe biannually with the ministers, and we get to share the ideas that we can, so that we can brainstorm into what we can include into policy. So that's my message to the ministers. And to the girls, I'll start with the Zimbabwean girls who talked about gadgets. I'll take the message back to Potras. We have an e-learning program that we have, so we will need to find out, you may need to know where your school falls in the program. It's being done bit by bit, but it's also coming to almost all the schools. We have done a lot of schools, so there is help there. The third message that I have is to those who were talking about mentorship. From the African network of women expert side, we also have a mentorship program. So we'll see how we can cascade down to make sure everyone who needs a mentor gets a mentor. And finally, to everyone here, the time for women to be setting the tables is over. Right now, that it's time to sit at the table and be decision makers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Those were very strong words. Thank you. And finally, Dr. Rejoice Maseko.
Thank you so much once again. My last words will be, as Africans, we are facing complex problems. We are facing complex challenges. Climate change is here. We are facing various pandemics. We are not even sure if COVID has gone or is still with us, or maybe the virus is still trying to undergo mutation so that it can attack again. But having said that, complex problems are easy to solve when you are collaborating. Researchers, they know that. Even now, I'm here to encourage us that, yes, the stem pipe, has been leaking for a long time, but let us unify so that we can solve, we can patch this pipe which has been leaking. The girls need us. Women, let us avail ourselves. From experience, there's one thing I've noted. Women, as they climb higher, they become vicious. They become unavailable to the girls. I'm saying, let us avail ourselves. Again, let us see the results of this network, because I know it will change, or it's going to be a game changer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, panelists. As we finally close, I'd like to summarize what we have heard today. The key message that's run across from all what my panelists said was the need for, first of all, political willingness. There's the need for policy creation. There's the need to be deliberate. And then women leaders need to share their story. Now, for me, what has stuck out for, as we move out is the fact that women are the future. Women and tech are made for each other, and the fact that change is visible, and hence the need for the network of women digital ministers. As we move out, I'd like to leave us with one action that Madame Cecilia has mentioned, because this is going to be a yearly affair. She has suggested that we create an intergenerational team so we can understand them better and solve their problems better. And I'd like to leave us with that action as we leave, to work on and make sure we come back with tangible results next year. Thank you very much, my panelists. You may, thank you. As my panelists leave, I'd like to call Mr. Bjorn Richter, the head of digitalization cluster at GIZ, to give an intervention.
Well, thank you very much, Thelma, for organizing this, and thank you very much, Doreen, to guide us through. I think as you saw in the video message of our Minister for Development Cooperation, Schulze, she's keen and passionate not only on feministic development cooperation, but actually to make sure we all close the gender-digital divide, which I have to say is opening. We saw during the COVID pandemic that the gender-digital divide is opening, particularly for young females, and particularly also in rural areas. Well, we also see, and I think Ursula made this very clear, the ICT industry is not yet there. While working with them on AI, while working with them on machine learning, while working with them also on STEM curricula, we see a majority of men and young boys engaging, which is not wrong, but this is a joint effort that we need to tackle. And I think this is a gap we also have to address to the industry in a manner that they appreciate this, that their life, their services, and obviously also their economic benefit will become better afterwards, not as a one that needs to be enforced just by politics. They need to believe that. As GIZ, we are great that we can implement on behalf of BMZ the Female Digital Minister Network. Thanks to the leadership of Smart Africa and ITU, and obviously the personal availability of our minister, I think we launched this jointly in New York. Well, New York is very far away. I think Victoria Falls brought it here on stage, so we saw this and we see this. And I can just say it's not on us to decide what is in the network, what are the services, what are the requirements, but we just want to make sure we are there, and we believe on co-creation in digital development. And maybe that's something we have done very nicely together in Ghana with the Digital Transformation Center. We have done this very nicely together in Rwanda with Paula and her team. We're also doing this in Togo and other parts of Africa with our digital transformation centers. We are there, and I just call on the digital ministers to make sure we are ambitious. Let's not talk, but let's do stuff together. We will always be available as one of the close partners of Smart Africa and ITU. Well, we're also delivering already, and I think Thelma's lead when it comes to Smart Africa Digital Academy, everybody acknowledged, but there is also data that from the 6,500 policymakers, 40% or close to 40% are already female. Obviously, we're aiming on equal numbers, so we have to lift the bar jointly. But we're working on this already. There are training courses, I think, for females, and particular also for female decision makers from regulatory authorities and digital ministers. We're also aiming to support Smart Africa and maybe also the digital ministers around with the blueprint on smart women and girls that will come up as one of the part of the blueprints. Well, the blueprint is great, but the implementation and the leading country is obviously also great. So we're looking forward to support not only Smart Africa, but one leading country to make that happen. And let's not wait until 2025. Let's launch this in 2024 to really have a blueprint going forward. Last but not least, we're also implementing Atingi, which is the e-learning platform, and we have the conviction that particular e-learning, which is an old school technology, everybody appreciates, but the added value is that it goes to rural areas. And I think also the colleagues spoke about this. There's a disconnect between urban areas where you might have some connectivity and ability on tapping into digital skills, but urban areas is just one portion of African reality. We would like to look into projects like the FEM entrepreneurship program that we're doing in Togo, bringing Raspberry Pis and digital skills to rural area where there's no connectivity, and making sure we definitely deliver also on a cooperation with the tech companies. We're currently discussing with Orange a very innovative project in Cameroon, And these are projects that needs to be scaled and that needs to be actually looked into, but it's on us to make that happen and also on a Pan-African level. Well, last but not least, we also have to walk the talk. I think from GIZ, we're also clear that 50% of our senior leadership should be female. We're working on this. I think we have 47% at the moment from around the continent. We work with the Fair Work Foundation together to make that more inclusive, but it's a topic I just wanted to address also to the policymakers. While we talk on the ones that were on stage, the platforms are very challenging. Animal and also ITU knows this, I think, very well. They are not connected to a country or to a region. This is something, it's a global phenomenon. Also in Germany, we are jointly into this. Thank you so much, and looking forward to work.
Thank you, Bjorn. So as we close, I'd like to thank Madame Doreen Bogdan-Martin and the German Minister for the vision for this platform. Thank you, our partners. Thank you, honorable ministers, for attending. This brings us to the end of this session. At 12 o'clock, we'll be having the session for the girls in ICT to specifically celebrate them. They are here for us, so as we go out for a break, please come back at 12 for the celebration of the Girls in ICT Day. Thank you and have a good day.